Hello world, I'm Paul from Slow Dragon Music and you are watching SDM TV. Hi, thanks for tuning in to SDM TV for what is our first attempt. We're going to be talking to various musicians and music personnel about, a whole lot of things that affect us in the industry. Today, I have joining me Mr. Neil Hudson from Krysthla, representing England, and north of the border we have Mr. Bryan Ramage, who gives his name to the awesome Ramage Inc. How are you doing, guys?
Very well, thank you. We're good.
Right, thanks for joining me. I'm grand. So how do you feel being the guinea pigs for this run? Being the first one?
It's all good.
Someone has
as long as you just use plenty of lubrication, mate, we'll be fine. Absolutely fine.
We're going easy. So today I was wanting to talk to you about elements of self-reliance. That is, bands taking on different aspects outside of the creative, other industry responsibilities that are required for properly running a band. First up, Neil, so you're a professional sound engineer as well as a guitarist for Krysthla, yeah? And I believe you have done all of the recording for all 3 albums, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I think that kind of stems from I think many years of obviously I've been in other bands, recording at the studios and things like that, and although the majority of the time you kind of leave with something you're happy with, there's always things a couple of weeks down the line you think, oh, I wish we'd have done that thing or tried this. And I think anybody with a creative bone in their body, especially in the music sort of scene, there's going to be some aspect of you wanting to take the reins at some point, just have a go and just have a tinker with. And I think some people enjoy it once they've had a go and they carry on with it. I think a lot of other people just don't bother, and I think, yeah, that's not my thing. I prefer live shows or just gigging in general, and they don't bother. But for me, it was kind of just wanting to go a bit further with the stuff I'd already worked on before. And then when we did, obviously, Krysthla came along, I'd already started doing like other bands' material and stuff like that. So it was just kind of an obvious route, really, to do our own material rather than go somewhere else. And although that's good in some respects because you have full creative control over whatever you produce, it's also the worst thing on earth because you never go to sleep, you're never happy with it, you're always tinkering, and you don't get that cut-off point that you do with an engineer at another studio where that guy might say to you, dudes, this is fine, honestly, there's nothing wrong with this, and you're like, oh, I don't know, but and there's all these things you just want to keep pushing the envelope a bit more. But with another engineer, his job is to go, this is perfect, guys, there's nothing wrong with it, and then draw a line under it. But when you do it yourself, it never ends. It's pretty all encompassing and all consuming, and before you realise it, it's 5 a.m. every day and you're still tinkering and looking at things and wondering why everything sounds like shit. But it doesn't. It's just your blinkered kind of view that you want it to be as good as it can be, but everybody else probably thinks it sounds amazing. But yeah, you never surrender it. It's always unfinished in your eyes, which is the worst thing ever, and I'm sure Bryan can attest to that as well.
Yes. It would be the very short answer to that question.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was going to follow that up with asking you to run us through some of the pros and cons of doing that in-house, but you've kind of covered that. I suppose, it sounds like you kind of fell into this just from already doing some of your own recording as well a little bit, is that right?
Well, oddly enough, the recording thing actually started, I had a hernia operation back in like 1999 or something, and I was laid up on the sofa for like a month, and my old band, Violation, that I used to be in, the other guitar player, had like a little 4-track recorder, and I was like, dude, let me borrow that thing whilst I'm just sitting at home doing nothing. I just want to tinker with some ideas. And that's literally how it started. I had a keyboard with some like crappy drum loops on it, and just started writing with like a Metal Zone pedal plugged direct in, so it just sounded like 1,000 Bs. And that's how the whole writing and recording thing started, just on a 4-track, because I was laid up after an operation. So it was kind of kind of born out of a necessity not to get too bored and too fat. So that's how that really started. And then once I kind of got a handle on it, and you kind of figure out how you can pan things and ping pong things down on tape, like actual cassette tapes, and you end up with like 20 layers of audio on a cassette tape, and it's literally just hiss because it just gets worse and worse the more you bounce it down. So that's kind of how that really started. It was just because I had an operation and I was bored.
So in Krysthla, Neil, I think you are the sound engineer, whereas in Ramage Inc, am I correct in saying that every member of Ramage Inc is actually a sound engineer?
No, not entirely. Hammy is not really up to speed with the whole sound engineering aspect, although he has got laser trigger systems, which is really cool. Yeah. No. My bass player Martin is a professional audio engineer and production manager for an audio events company, backline hire, that kind of thing. So he's probably the most talented man I know as far as gear and
Okay, back after I won't say minor technical difficulty because it took absolutely ages to sort it out. We'll get back to you, Ramage. We were talking about Marcin and all his work.
I believe your question was if everybody in Lama Drink was a sound engineer. That is negative. Hammy is a drummer, and what he does in his personal life as a workie, it's quite technical. He's into his computers and developing software for companies and things like that. Hef was before COVID a full-time sound engineer, like live sound engineer, and also did the odd work here and there for a few other audio companies. Sadly, he's kind of out of work at the moment, as a lot of people from that industry, which is very depressing. I mean, the industry is dead right now. But that's just delving into a whole other topic of conversation.
That's another video, that one.
Marcin, my bass player, he is very, very good at what he does. He's a project manager for an audio company, an audio hire company, but he's very knowledgeable about a lot of gear, and he's helped me out a lot over the years. I'm just a lonely producer that produces a band, another band every now and again.
So you qualify yourself more as producer position within the band rather than sound engineer?
Absolutely. I mean, I know enough to get myself by. I've worked some decent systems in my time, but I've more qualifications and what I've experience that I've had has led more towards a producer role. Someone that has that sort of end vision in sight and helps like other bands and other musicians realise what it is that they're really looking to do and what it is that they're going for, that they might not necessarily know how to get there. Yeah,
so there is like a defining sort of line between what you all do in the process of putting an album together.
Yeah.
Aside from the studio aspect and the recording part of that, you guys are quite successful at taking your sound onto the stage. Now, I always wondered, it's quite an alien thing to a lot of people, the way you do that. Have you come into a lot of problems with it, or do you think there could be problems getting that on stage at some shows?
The problems that we've come across in the past, because we are a low to mid-level kind of band, well, before COVID, most of the venues that we played were quite small, and unfortunately, like, we don't possess enough band cash to bring our own sound engineer with us, which we'd love to do, and we have managed to bring sound engineers to our gigs from time to time, people that we know and that we trust, especially for like the more high profile gigs that we're looking forward to, and it helps ease the whole situation. But when we're playing sort of venues that we're not familiar with sound engineers that don't really understand what it is that we're trying to do, sometimes it can be quite difficult. But what we try and do, because we've all had experience in working in live sound, is try and make the whole process as streamlined as possible, so there's minimum effort required from anybody that's going to be working at the venue. So if we're using the in-house sound engineer, we always fire ahead of time a stage plan, a routing list of what it is that we do. Whether that gets looked at or not is a different story. Therein lies the issues. But yeah, we kind of do our own in-ear mixing as well, which an awful lot of bands do now, because that as well takes away more work for the sound engineer to do, so he can then focus on just making things sound great out front. We try and take away as many variables as possible, so I'm repeating myself again, just to take less work off of the sound engineer that's there, to give him as processed as possible, everybody's parts. So all he needs to do is really turn up the faders in a decent manner to make things go, whoa!
Yeah, I get that. It's just a few more extra spars to as we're talking about self-reliance, so you can then go into somewhere and get what you want and make everyone else's life a bit easier. So there's obvious advantages to the bits and pieces that you've talked about, and obviously what Neil's talked about, pros and cons of doing all the studio stuff yourself. I was wondering, just to open up a bit more and see if we can talk about more three-way conversation. How important do you think it is then for bands nowadays to engage in the responsibilities for which would traditionally fall to members of the music industry, more like business personnel, so not necessarily just in the studio, but say tour manager or designer and things like this?
Well, I can answer that if you like, or prefer.
Anybody, go for it. It's
go for it.
A free for all here.
Well, we kind of all fell into each other's roles quite naturally in the Ramage Inc camp. Anyway, Martin kind of took on the sort of more managerial role right from the get-go, from joining. He's very keen and does a lot of the social media and management and logistics, along with Hef in that front. He's very good at communicating and making contacts, getting us to that next level. I primarily just write and record and send demos to the guys, and get us all up to par for playing live, and Hammy's had a bit of background in design. We always ask him if he can help us out with it, but he's busy a lot of the time. So we kind of just manage as much as we can in-house. We've had managers in the past which have been good and bad, depending on who we're talking about, but it's I think we're doing okay for now, all work before the whole situation has now occurred.
Do you think it's quite important for different members of a band to take on different roles outside of the creative process to try and make the most of things then?
Absolutely, because if it's all down to one person, then it's just going to fall apart. It's not going to work. And if everybody's trying to do the same role, then it's it's leaving all the other important things and are just not getting done. Somebody needs to do multimedia, keep on track of all your contacts and keep up in touch with everybody. Somebody needs to be writing the music, whether that be the whole band and all meeting up and doing it together, or like Ramage Inc, myself writing the music and bringing it to the band and saying this is what we need to do and working on it together. And somebody needs to be there to make everybody laugh.
What about Krysthla? Do you have a similar setup with the division of workload?
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar to what Bryan just said. I think you naturally find yourself allocated your role. I think like Carl, Carl's always good with the booking side of things. He always talks to the promoters and stuff like that. So Carl delegated that side of things to himself naturally because he's very like good communicator with people. Noel does all the vehicle stuff, so anything to do with the tour, like the tour bus and things like that. Noel's always one that sorts out all the garage things and makes sure that the wheels keep rolling. Liam's a videographer, our drummer. He does videos for bands as well. So any kind of footage that we need shooting in terms of like just promo things or interviews or anything that's going to go on the screen, basically. Liam does, and then obviously I do all the recording, and same as Bryan, but I do all the demos and things like that, and then we all come together and feel what works in the room, because obviously a lot of the things that you think sound great when you're writing, when you get together, it doesn't always translate how you think it's going to on the computer, 300 beats a minute thrashing away on the screen. It's like mega, but then you all get together, it's like, yeah, it's probably not that good an idea. So that would be the only
goes, what were you thinking?
Yeah, exactly. I'd like to be there when you come up with these ideas. But and then AD is he's the one that makes us all laugh, as you were saying.
Brilliant.
So, yeah, the rest of us have all got our professional things down as to what we do, and then AD just bumbles into the room and we all start pissing ourselves. So that's the complete unit, pretty much.
Yeah, I think it's something that actually works with a lot of bands when there is that sort of natural kind of almost like a tiny little village of people kind of working together at the separate things that all need to happen to make it work.
Yeah.
Is there anything that either of you wish was another responsibility or feel it could be another responsibility that could be taken on in-house, something that you think maybe either of your bands would benefit from doing yourselves?
We kind of manage ourselves in a way nowadays, don't we?
Yeah,
really.
In that aspect, yes. I wish we had someone that was good at tour booking.
Yeah.
And,
that's
the thing that we need more than anything is a booking agent, someone that's going to get us out there and get us into the places that are responsive to the kind of music that we play, and to get us on the bills with people that outside bands and artists that might be, well, don't necessarily need to be what we're doing, but have like a similar kind of audience that enjoy
your demographic at least, kind of.
Yeah. But in saying that, it's like I'm kind of disagreeing with myself after just saying that as well, because we played so many different types of gigs with variants, different bands of varying styles and completely different genres as well, and we've had a great time, and the audiences went, whoa, I didn't expect to enjoy that. but they did. I mean, man, we played next to S Club 7, and that was great.
That's an amazing one.
Yeah.
And where was that?
That was in Scotland. It was Scotfest, S Club 7 and the Jackson.
No way. That sounds fucking amazing. So I don't think you really said anything, Neil. Is there anything that you think in Krysthla then that you think would be a tasty addition to the in-house responsibilities? Maybe a coffee monkey for when you're mixing.
Yeah. Well, the less we have to do, the better, really. So if we could find somebody that does a job that we can't do, then I'm all up for add in another spoke to our wheel. That's why we had Rob Stampede from Stampede Press working with us doing all our PR when we put our first record out, because we kind of we go back a really long way with Rob and his old band Panic Cell and our old band Gutwell, and we used to do some shows together. So it was many years past, and then when we were looking at PR for the first records, Rob's name came up and Carl was like, "Oh, you guys remember Rob?" And it was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." And he was just the ideal fit, like, straight away. So that was something we didn't have to do. And Rob understood the whole Facebook and social media thing way more than what we did, because we've been out of the loop for so long as a band, because Gutwell finished in, I think it was 2000 and end of 2009, and Krysthla Krysthla got together in 2012 and didn't gig till 2014. So it was quite a long time. In that period was when the whole social media thing popped up and bands were using that media. Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, still there. Yeah, it went quiet.
I had a notice from Zoom saying it had the meeting time extended.
Unlimited minutes.
Yeah, but so when we took Rob on, he understood the whole social media thing way more than what we did, so we just let him run with it, and it worked really well. But yeah, I'll go with what Bryan said a minute ago about the whole European booking thing. That's something that your average guy, unless you know somebody that can really help, and you just know them as a good friend or something, that's something that's quite hard to crack.
It's finding keen people that are keen young people that are looking to get bands over as well. I mean, we've had our few experiences going into Europe as a band, Ramage Inc, and it's mostly been people that are doing their best to keep music alive and bringing in people from abroad, the bands from abroad, and we've had some really good experiences with that. And I just wish there was more of these people that were really passionate about helping like underground artists such as ourselves to go to new places and bring music to people that are really looking forward to seeing something new and different.
I think there's a lot of people out there that are willing to do it. I don't think there's as many people that are willing to take a financial risk and pay X amount for paying for travel and this and the other. Depending on who you work with, it can get very expensive. So, and it all depends on how much you want to go, really. So, I mean, is the exposure to go to Europe and do something worth it, depending on how much it's going to cost to travel, or do you go for the experience? And so, I did that. And that's something, later on in your career, you could say, well, I've toured all over Europe. It might cost a few quid in, in whatever, for whatever means. But
I've had both ends of that before, like you learn from your mistakes. And
hope so.
Our last few stints over, we always make sure that we play, or at least break even, at the very least break even, just to have the experience, because, when we play in bands because we love playing music, and to go somewhere and experience new places, it's a great holiday. And having a purpose whilst you're there. That's what I enjoy. Anyway. I'm not really one of those guys that wants to go on holiday and spend all my money on going to Ibiza and having a party and drinking. Not even when I was young.
So part of the reason that I'm trying to get bands on here talking is just to give them another opportunity to get in front of people while we can't get out and about and do gigs. So I was wondering if you'd both like to wrap up with each taking a turn to have just a quick overview of what is next for each of you. You've got any videos or songs in studio or anything like that?
Well, we are literally on the cusp of the last lockdown. We managed to record a bunch of 20% remain on my battery. That's good. Ooh. Yeah, we managed to record a bunch of live tracks in the studio in our live room that we don't ever really play live on the gig circuit, and they turned out so good. Because all we did was really just line out from the Kempers, line out from the bass, recorded the vocals and the drums in the room, but everything else was flown through into the desk. And they turned out so good, we thought, well, why don't we shoot some videos for the live music versions of those songs rather than using the album version, just doing a normal video. So we're in the process of shooting some videos for the live tracks that we never play like in shows, but we only managed to do one, which was White Castles, which we put out a little while ago, and then we couldn't play anymore because Boris said no. So yeah, so we're basically sitting on 4 live tracks that we need to do videos for, so that's kind of it for now. But yeah, I'm just busy wrapping up some work at the moment, so when all that's done, I'm going to be making some drum packs and some Kemper sample packs for sale, and then yeah, it'll be Krysthla album 4, I think. So
Cool.
What about yourself, Ramage?
Cool. You should use green screen. Use Zoom for your video. Yeah.
Anything on the cards for Ramage Inc. then?
Yeah. I mean, as much as I would like to say that we've done a lot, well, I mean, I've been working full time throughout this pandemic. As I'm an HGV driver as well as producing on the side. Obviously, I can't do any production work because of COVID, so spending my free time writing. I've got, shall we say, a fair amount of new music, and we're just going through all the demos and choosing what we like, what we don't like, and arranging things more as a band in this next one, which is what I hoped for. I initially said to the band, like before this whole COVID thing hit, I wanted us all to get in the room together and me bring music to the band and work on riffs and arrangements of stuff that I've written, like together in the room. But sadly, we can't do that. So I'm just going ahead and doing what we normally do, but then sending it all to them. And we're just, we're talking online and trying to work on it slowly but surely. And during this pandemic, so we've got that to look forward to. We're really looking forward to finishing a new album, and at the same time, we're also thinking of releasing a live album. It's because over the last, I mean, we formed in 2012 as this lineup anyway, and we've gigged a lot since then, and we've got various recordings. Multi-track recordings from us playing all over, and we were thinking about maybe making a compilation or something. It was a thought, and I've done a bit of work on it recently and put some things towards band, and see what they say.
Sounds cool to me, man. Well, that is pretty much about all we've got time for at the moment. I just wanted to say thank you to Neil Hudson from Krysthla and Bryan Ramage from Ramage Inc. for coming and joining me today, and thank you for bearing with me through the teething problems and the technical difficulties earlier on, which saw us lose a little bit of the flow, but I've actually really enjoyed it. I hope you have too.
Cheers, Paul.
Yeah, man, it's been wicked.
Yeah. Cheers, Neil.
Good to see you both again. Good to see you both.
That's it, folks. End of episode. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to our channels, and most importantly, check out some links to some awesome stuff from the bands down below.